Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of The Fix. Today, our guest is the head of copy at the Oxford Club, Dave Baumann. Dave, I will let you say something in a second, but first I'm going to introduce a little bit about what we're going to do in today's show, because it's different for two very important reasons. Part one, we are not going to review a piece of copy that's a work in progress. We're going to look at a piece of copy that's been out in the market for a long, long time, that Dave himself wrote and worked on from inception and took to market. So he's going to tell us how he wrote that piece of copy, why he made the decisions he made, and everything like that. So we're going to look at the process of a finished piece of copy, which we've never done before. That's interesting for that reason. The second thing that's different about this episode, this is part one of a two-part episode, because in the second episode, we're going to get the marketer behind that piece of copy, his name is Chris Whitmer, on to talk about how he marketed that piece of copy. So you're going to hear about the process involved in both the writing and marketing and execution of a monster campaign. So it's very, very exciting. Today we're going to talk copy. Part two, we're going to talk marketing. Dave, I'll finally let you say something, having teed everything up. Thank you very much for giving us some of your time. And cheers for being here, mate.
Nick, great to be with you, Glenn, as well. And I like I told you guys before this call started, I love talking copy, so I'm all in.
So let's get started. Right, we're not going to bring the copy on screen straight away, because I want to hear the story of how this particular campaign evolved. Not necessarily just from when you started writing, but when you first heard about it. There's a celebrity element. There's a whole campaign and a whole load of decisions that you had to make as the writer before you ended up writing and that led to you getting to that piece of copy. So I'm going to hand the floor over to you and say, tell us the story of this particular piece of copy.
Sure. So this would have been 2019. Early 2019, I had received an email from one of our event directors who has been with the company for a long time, the Oxford Club. And he sent me an email that said, this name looks familiar. And it said, William O'Reilly, I believe it, New York, very close, Long Island, New York. And I looked at him, I said, yeah, I think that's the guy. And it said Oxford Club customer since 2003. And I said, you know what, that's unusual, because Bill O'Reilly has referenced our chief investment strategist, Alexander Green, on his old television programs, the Factor. And so I'm thinking to myself, you know what, that really is him. Bill O'Reilly has referenced Alexander Green's analysis on his programs over the year, the no spin zone, and maybe we should reach out to him. So I got with Alexander Green. We were at a conference in St. Petersburg, Florida, and we were coming up with ideas to create a new front-end promotion for the Oxford's flagship publication, The Communique. And I said, Alex, Bill O'Reilly has been reading your work since 2003. And he said, Dave, that makes a lot of sense, because he got in contact with me before to get my analysis for his programs. I said, Alex, let's reach out to him, see if he'd be interested. And Alex and I worked on crafting a message to Bill directly. And Alex said, all right, well, we formulated let Bill know that, hey, we want to talk about the state of America, where Americans are, how people can improve their own financial standing. And Alex sent the email to Bill. He received an email back in 6 minutes that said, Alex, great to hear from you. I'll get with my agent. Let's talk. And
copy you wrote in the whole campaign was actually a letter to Bill O'Reilly.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Well, and Alexander Green is a phenomenal writer as well, and he actually was a copywriter very early on with the Oxford Club. So Alex, it was easy.
And I ask a thing on that without getting too deep into that.
Sure.
I know Alex Green. I met him years and years and years ago when he was probably a copywriter, actually. But just on that first piece of copy where you wrote out to Bill O'Reilly, you didn't at that point, the way you said it, I just want to check, you just wanted to talk. You just wanted to talk about finance, about the state of America and all that kind of, you didn't ask for a sale. You didn't say, come and
very soft
the voice of this or anything. You were just establishing a relationship around a shared common ideal that you liked talking about this stuff.
Bingo.
Yeah.
It was just that, to see,
to learn. Yeah.
Right. It was Alex basically exchanging pleasantries, and to hear back so quick, and to say, we'd like to get a new message out, bring in new Oxford Communiques subscribers, and we just thought, we're curious if you would be interested in coming together to help get the word out.
So this actually is a merge of two particular things you can do. You can two marketing campaigns. People talk about using your customers as your champions for your product, long-time customers who can help endorse your product in such a way that other people like them will want to subscribe. Mm-hmm. Or you can get a quote unquote celebrity endorser, somebody with a huge profile that might bring more profile to your business. In this case, there's actually both of those things at the same time.
That's exactly right. Bill, as the voice here, also served as the testimonial, as you said, Nick. He is able to discuss his experiences with the Oxford Club, why he follows Alexander Green and Alex's philosophies, why he connects, what the Oxford Club has done for him personally. And to actually get those stories from Bill and for him to share those freely with us, it was extraordinary. It was it also created the ultimate host for a financial publication. Someone who could be a skeptic on behalf of the viewer, the reader, as well as someone who provides proof of performance. Bill shared a story that Alexander Green's Berkshire B Hathaway recommendation from way back in the early 2000s had helped him make so much money that he was able to take half of his profits and start a foundation in his parents' name. It's just amazing proof of performance. And some more stories like those came out over the years. We actually didn't have that story for the initial launch of the promotion that we're talking about today, but we did several other projects with Bill O'Reilly since then that we were able to use in promotional copy.
Right, Nick, I will allow you to drop in and ask your question again and explain why you're in there, and I'll bring it in.
It's
magic of technology right here.
The fact that we've managed to do the fix for more than 2 years, and this has never yet happened in a live episode that we've been doing, is astonishing, because I have the most shaky internet connection in the world in my office. But coming to the house, it's fine. However, and I'm surrounded by children's toys, so there's probably going to be children here at some point.
Well, so Nick, you needed Alexander Green's recommendation from this project with Bill O'Reilly. It was a 5G pick.
I'll try and paraphrase the question that I was trying to ask you when my internet connection cut out, which was, okay, so you've got this authentic relationship, and Bill's interested, and you know that obviously Alexander's interested in marketing his product with Bill in some way. Talk to me about how you went from there to actually selecting an idea and I suppose a headline, or at least a pitch, because
Sure.
There are many ways you could have done bringing those two people together, and you chose this particular way. We'll bring it on screen. Tell me how you got there.
Yes. So the general idea, as I mentioned, is to get people into our flagship publication, which is the Oxford Communique with Alexander Green. And, you know, Bill being with the club for so long, he understands that, you know, it's these generally long video sales letters that, you know, tease either a stock or a system or what have you, you know. And in this case, you know, we had a couple of ideas early on. We wanted to call the project Make Americans Rich Again with Bill O'Reilly. We found some trademark issues with that, obviously, with the Trump campaign at the time. But then we had an aha moment with calling it, we're going to call this the Great American Wealth Project with Bill O'Reilly. And that went over quite well internally with our Oxford Club, everyone involved in helping to put the project together. And, you know, it's aspirational. It's you know, it was the message that we were looking for. And how do we do that? We would offer several investment recommendations from Alexander Green, along with the Oxford Communique, which would offer a monthly stock recommendation as well, all of Alex's commentary, so on and so forth. He does video training series. You know, we could put together so we were going to put together a package, which would be called the Great American Wealth Blueprint. And that would include everything that I just mentioned, you know, big value package. We would also include a book by Bill O'Reilly. Bill at the time had The United States of Trump, and that was a bestseller. He also is famous for the Killing series, which is like the biggest best-selling nonfiction series of all time. So we were able to offer a book from Bill, a book from Alex, because Alex is a New York Times bestselling author as well. So we were able to put together kind of this big package and then formulate the message, formulate essentially the pitch. And it all came together quite nicely.
So we'll take a look at the pitch in 1 second. I just have one more question, because I think this is actually a conversation that's we're talking about copywriting at quite a high level here, in the sense that I've never worked with Bill, but I have worked with some pretty high profile people, politicians, people who've been around for a long, long time, people who are very, very reputation conscious.
Mm-hmm.
They take a long time building their own reputation up. They are prepared to use their name against the right project. That doesn't mean they're prepared to say anything and say something crazy. And I know that more inexperienced or junior copywriters have found themselves in situations where they kind of want to put, I'm going to just use the phrase, crazy shit in the mouth of somebody who will never say that thing, because their reputation is so important to them. So as a copywriter, you have to think about lots of relationships here. The relationship.
Nick, I had to go back and watch all of his old programs to get his voice. I was luckily able to find a New York Times article about Bill O'Reilly and his own personal investing experiences from way back in the 90s. We would schedule calls with Bill to kind of get his investing experiences, you know, why he would invest. And we would get, you know, he would talk about his father teaching him how to invest, to put away 10% very early on. He always followed his father's advice. So yeah, there was a lot that had to go into it. And we, like you said, you couldn't put unhinged copy to the lips of Bill O'Reilly. You can't, you're not able to do that, because, you know, Bill's going to go through the entire thing, and you know, they're like, say, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, like, we knew that's going to happen. In fact, when he first got the final script, and again, we kind of worked with him with the messaging along the way. He took it, he dropped it on a table in front of me like this. He says, "This is dense." I said, "Bill, we got a lot of market research that tells us, you know, it's got to be about an hour. You know, people really need to buy in, and you know, and so, you know, we had it. So again, like you brought up some really important points about getting the message right,
and showing them to respect them. I think.
Yes.
I personally found that to be very important. I think, again, something I've experienced, not true of everybody, but often true of more junior writers, people trying to break in. They can write about famous people like I'm using famous people, they can write about them like they're caricatures, cartoonishly, as if they'll say, and as if they're a laughing stock almost. And it's like that person is 70 years old, perhaps 80 years old. They've spent their entire life building up these relationships that they value. They're not just going to say anything you put in their mouth. And I think what actually taught me about writing copy was you should do that with everybody you work with. That level of respect of sort of sitting at their feet and learning what matters to them and what makes them tick and what they value, because ultimately that's actually what makes people buy from somebody, that sense of shared value, that sense of authentic connection. And that's what you need to try and tap into as a copywriter. And it's very, very difficult to do unless you listen.
I think there's something else going on here, which I want to draw out from what the two of you in that kind of interaction is saying, is because when you look at the copy and the idea, as you say, Dave, is like it's a wealth blueprint, it's a wealth plan, it's a wealth project. And the headline, and we'll look at it in a little bit, the headline in some respects, if you were to go for a more traditional like front end idea where you just go, the number one wealth thing kind of thing, a lot of people would go in the room and go, oh, this kind of missing, like it's not really got the thing.
We should go further, push you.
Yeah, they push you to go, oh, come on then, what else? But actually, what I think you've got here as well, and just give me a second to try and kind of deconstruct in my own mind. Your idea here is actually Bill O'Reilly. The genesis of that idea was you seeing, hang on a minute, this famous guy's like the subscriber of him. So your copywriter mind was actually looking at like the entrepreneurial spirit. We spoke about this with Brian York. That kind of entrepreneurial thing of like looking for ideas. Oh, hang on a minute, there's a subscriber here who's Bill O'Reilly. That's where the idea actually started. Once you've got that, that's then becomes an overwhelming credibility idea of like, if we can get this guy here. Once you've got that kind of credibility coming up and that kind of natural authority, you can then layer, I don't need to go as out there with the copy. I can bring the copy in a little bit to match up that authority and the credentials with the copy. That has the dual benefit of being more authentic. But I think where a lot of copywriters would make the mistake, go, right, I've got Bill O'Reilly, now I go crazy copy, and it's like, because that's what copy needs to look like, and then you're like, whoa. The idea is Bill O'Reilly comes and says, hi, I'm Ace, and you know me. So therefore, all the copy around it can be pitched in a slightly different way. And I think a lot of younger copywriters, inexperienced copywriters, don't see that. They just go through full throttle, hey, right, this is a thing. But this is a perfect example of how, that's the idea, the Bill O'Reilly credibility factor. Now I can dress the copy appropriately and I know where I'm aiming within for my idea of the actual expression of that in the copy and the headline itself.
I think that's spot on, Glenn. And, it's funny, very early on, this particular copy, The Great American Wealth Project with Bill O'Reilly, it was reviewed by some very, prominent copywriters, big name copywriters. And they really tore it apart too. This isn't going to work. What's the big idea here? That investing is the best way to build wealth? In some ways, yes. But like you said, the big credibility is so important to this particular project because everything just fit together so nicely. The fact that Bill O'Reilly experiences the communique, reads Alexander Green's writing, follows the recommendation, has made a lot of money from the stock recommendations besides being successful in his broadcast career that paid him a lot of money. It all kind of fit together, and it was quite difficult to not go crazy with the copy, and to bring it down, reel it in, just kind of lay out the facts of great stocks that have helped people create great wealth. Because Alexander Green, like Bill, also has personal experiences. Alex bought Apple very cheap, Netflix very cheap, Amazon very cheap. He's made millions from very small investments. Like, he's also proof of the message, of the philosophy. So I'd say you're right there, Glenn, in terms of trying to reel back the copy craziness that we all have seen in the industry. It was important to do that, and I had to do that. Otherwise, this was never going to work.
It's that acknowledgement of the business situation and the fact that you can't put a piece of copy in front of somebody of that nature and say, you aim to this. I mean, you shouldn't do that to anybody, but you certainly can't do it to that person. Glenn, there's probably enough build up, because otherwise we're starting to become a little bit abstract. Shall we bring the copy up on screen?
Yeah.
I mean, Dave, do you want to read it aloud, or do you want to hear an Englishman read it aloud?
I'd rather hear you guys read it aloud. Oh, were you going to share the introduction as well, or?
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to link below the link below the YouTube video or wherever you're watching this. People will be able to see a link to the actual video itself. The main form of this is in a video, and it's got what we call a sizzle reel was the I think the term you used, Dave. But what happens, just for people that don't understand or have not come across this kind of format before, obviously a video plays and what have you, but then behind that you'll get given the option to look at the transcript of that video, and we can maybe talk about that a little bit afterwards. But this comes in at the kind of what would call the lead from Bill himself.
That's right.
I presume this is where kind of Bill really starts talking. So I'll read out the headline complex, and then a little bit. I won't read too much. People can go and watch this and look at it themselves. But I'll just do a little bit of the lead.
Glenn, can I just give you one more caveat? Is that this headline complex had changed many times since the original. The original headline was the Great American Wealth Project with Bill O'Reilly. And then over time, we tested all sorts of new headlines to kind of continue going out to potential subscribers.
Cool. Okay. And when you say the headline, did you still have the same deck copy with the 1900 Americans underneath it, or is that a new element? You know?
I believe that was part of the initial headline complex. I'm unfortunately, I'm just not sure. I do know that the bottom subhead is one that we had tested with or without several times. We did ultimately find that teasing this "See How to Claim an O'Reilly Bestseller" ultimately won out, because it's that reciprocity factor, setting the expectation that you will walk away with something, or you can walk away with something.
The kicker, I like to call it, where even if none of this makes sense, you'll still get something out of the thing. So I'll read it from the top, from the eyebrow. A special broadcast featuring Bill O'Reilly and Alexander Green. America's new #1 wealth building strategy. 1,917 Americans become millionaires each day. Discover the best new way to build your wealth in America today. See how to claim an O'Reilly bestseller without paying retail or shipping at the end of the presentation. And then we drop into the lead. And it's Bill speaking. Welcome to the Great American Wealth Project. Thanks for being with us. I'm Bill O'Reilly. I'm here today to talk to you about achieving the American dream. What is the American dream? To me, it's about living where you want and doing what you want, when you want, also with whom you want. It's often been said that the best things in life are free, and that's true, but it's not the whole story. You can reach your potential or live life to the fullest if you spend your days worrying about money. I think I said you can, but you can't reach your potential. Money liberates you from what you want, from work that is miserable, from relationships that confine you. No one is truly free who is a slave to his job, his creditors, his circumstances, or his bills. Wealth is the great equalizer. Wealth is freedom, security, and peace of mind. It allows you to do and be what you want, support worthy causes, and help those closest to you. It enables you to follow your dreams, to spend your life the way you choose. Money gives you dignity. It gives you choices. That's why every man and woman should strive to achieve some level of financial freedom. I'm going to stop there because that's kind of the way in, and that gives us, there's a lot of little copy things going on there, which gives us plenty to talk about. Nick, what's your initial result? Let's stay aside from it. What's your initial reaction to this copy?
I've got two thoughts. One is that I don't think Bill O'Reilly is under any danger of you taking his job.
No.
Because you fluffed a few lines, God bless you.
Well,
I thought you did fine, Glenn. You did very, very good.
Is that me or is that the copy?
I think if I'd done it, it probably would be a little bit better. And I think everyone watching this knows why. No. Do you know what? I'm going to make a really banal copywriting point, which is actually intended to be a counterpoint to lots of the high-level copywriting that we've talked about relationship management and knowing your place in the business and within the project and things like that. The number of incidences of the word "you" in that lead is what actually struck me. Considering we've talked, which is the most basic copywriting advice we ever give people, just talk to your customer, use the word "you" and talk to them. It would be very easy to fall into the trap of talking about Bill in this situation because, hey, I've got this, I'm a copywriter. I can get Bill O'Reilly to say stuff and I can get him to say something crazy. What I like about this is it actually goes in the other direction. And yes, it feels like somebody I know sharing something quite personal about themselves. You don't often hear Tucker Carlson, I'll give them as an example, as, broadly analogous example, talking about his own personal finances, for instance. So it brings you in that sense, but it's all structured. Yes, it says, to me, it's this, but then it's you. Money gives you this, money gives you that, it gives you freedom. So straight away, we're back to the sort of basics of copywriting. And I think that's a really nice counterpoint because we get the high level stuff and we get the fact that it's somebody famous and high profile, somebody who has the trust and authority that we want to get our message to cut through. But then we strip it back and we make sure we talk to our customer. It would be very easy to not do that. I'd love to know what your first drafts were like, whether or not you found yourself writing and thinking, well, hang on, does anyone actually, no matter how famous the person I have as the host is, nobody matters more than the prospect themselves, People are interested in their own life far more than anybody else's, no matter how famous. So I guess that I'm interested to know how you tackled that challenge and how you got to this point.
That's a good question. Now, I'm very, very fortunate to have the guidance of Todd Skousen, who is the longtime copy chief here at the Oxford Club. He's actually becoming our CEO this fall. And I believe I submitted multiple attempts of this lead to Todd. And Todd just continued to challenge me to dive into Alexander Green's editorial and philosophy, as well as Bill's. And try to get them to match a bit, And one thing that was very easy to find is that, Bill and Alex believe in the American dream and what is possible for hardworking folks. And that's an important word. I think we'll see that word folks quite a bit because Bill, with the word folk, he's always, I'm looking out for you, the folks. So trying to get those philosophies to match kind of the aspirational purpose of everything, I think it took me multiple attempts to get this right, to have it fit Bill's voice and fit Alex's voice as well.
Did you stand behind the camera when he recorded this? Did you rehearse it? How did you know when the voice was right? Because, it's easy to think we got it right, but then there's nothing more exposing than listening to somebody else read our copy out, even when it's Glenn, right, reading the copy out,
We rented a warehouse in Long Island, very close to Bill's home, and hot in there, hot when we recorded, and we had a big crew. There were probably, relatively big. I mean, for us, I think we probably had a total 25 people in that warehouse watching Bill do this introduction. Through his, basically the opening monologue, he did it once, Nick, once. He before it transitioned to bringing in Alex, we literally stopped recording one take and everybody just clapped because we just thought he nailed it, which was a very good sign of what was to come.
That is, yeah. I mean, that's the ultimate in some ways, isn't it? It's not necessarily always the case. I have been on shoots where people stutter and stumble their way through it, and you can put it together and it still works. But it's a good sign that you've got a flow to your copy,
right?
That you'd hit that note, which was authenticity. That was, I would imagine, that was the challenge all along when you were first given that piece of copy to write. Like, can I make this feel as authentically Bill as possible? Because that is going to be what makes it work or not. Actually, not whether the idea is like the cleverest or whatever it's going to be. Does it feel real? Does it feel authentic? Does it feel honest to him? So that would be the a one taker. I mean, we love that, especially since
and we worked with him. We worked with his agent. The message had to fit. It had to fit before we got to the studio.
Another structural thing I liked about it was, again, very simple, but just laying out where we're going in the copy. We talk a lot in the copy reviews that we do weekly for the Fix Accelerator on the live calls, but also in the Fix, that we don't want to sell journey. We want to sell destination. We want to sell where we're going. We can get here. Sorry, my 3-year-old has just come into the house, having been in the paddling pool. He's about to make an appearance on the Fix, but he's got no clothes on.
I've got a 3-year-old as well, Nick. I know how to.
Yeah, let's get them both on. That's another thing I like. Well, setting that up really, really early. Here's what I think the American dream is. Here's what I think it means. Here's what I think why I think it matters to people. And then all you have to do is say, that's where we're going to try and get you today. That's a powerful sort of structure to use. Very, very simple, and often underutilized, because we do see a lot of copy that's kind of about the journey, and we don't want to sell journey. We want to sell destination.
I also think we've kind of touched on it. It's very, and I think this is, I like the idea of what you've done in the sense of looking for where you've got a guru in the form of Bill, and then an editorial guru in the form of Alexander Green, where you've looked for connections. So that's where you've gone, and you've ended up going, well, they connect, that they both have this American dream kind of thing. The American dream in the sense of copy in America and running that. I think a lot of people would try and obfuscate and make it more complicated and all this. But this whole intro to me strikes on a very fundamental, back to basics kind of feel, in both an emotional hit where it's like, look, we know where you are, like what's going on. We know the American dream is this fundamental belief kind of thing, and shared understanding, not just between those two people who are presenting this, but between the reader and those two people. So it's putting us all in a very room, and it doesn't shout, it doesn't kind of make big bold claims, but it does just hook you, and it allows the reader to bring their own stuff to this story, which I think is so valuable in copy. I think too much of the copy that we see these days, copy I write, copy Nick writes, and I'm sure you've like bashing out some stuff that's going out there, and there'll be people there watching this who just do the big promises, the big thing, but they try to put so much on the page rather than letting the reader go, hey, I know what you're talking about here, and leaning in and going, yeah, the American dream to each reader is going to be slightly different. The idea of wealth is going to be slightly different. They're adding all of this to that themselves. Was that a conscious thing that you guys were doing as you were developing this? of letting the reader bring their own story to it. It feels like that to me from what I'm seeing. I don't know how much of a conscious thing was there.
It was trying to get on the same wavelength as the reader early on. I think we've seen statistics that show the American dream is dying. Millennials say the American dream is dead at a much higher rate than the older generations. But we're going to kind of lean into that Alex and Bill do believe in the American dream, that you can do very well with hard work, discipline, so on and so forth. And if you notice the line here on the page at the very bottom, you can't reach your potential or live your life to the fullest if you spend your days worrying about money. Sometimes it's just very difficult to talk about money with people so directly. This line, I think, so early allowed us to make that connection that we are going to be talking about money today. Your money, our money. We're going to talk about money from here on and what money does for you. The next line is money liberates you from want, from work that is miserable, from relationships that confine you. So no one's truly free who is a slave to his job, his creditors, his circumstances, his bills. So that right there, we're trying to just hammer that barrier, just bust right through the barrier of talking about money. And this will allow us to get to our bigger message soon enough.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you do have to send that signal when your host isn't necessarily a money expert. They're not necessarily know. I mean, to a certain extent, there's a sort of my secret life thing going on here. You know me as this person, but in my private life, this is how I manage my money, and this is the person I turn to for advice. There's maybe you even tested that as a headline, Bill O'Reilly.
Nick, our best dedicated for this program was written by actually my mentor, Todd Skousen. Todd's headline for the dedicated was Bill O'Reilly's Wild Money Secret. And then there was an alternate, What Happened to Bill O'Reilly's Money? Those did extraordinarily well until it got to a point that Bill was sending us the email saying, guys, enough of this. Too much. I can't have people contacting me and saying, what's going on with my money? Come on. So we had to end those dedicated.
That's interesting.
Because again, it's about being careful with the voice.
That's actually really interesting because that kind of brings us full circle on the different skill sets at work with a campaign like this. It's not just copywriting, because if we just follow our copywriting brain, our sort of lizard brain, that's where we're going to go. And we do need to go in that direction, but we've also got to be conscious of the person that we're working with. I'm going to sort of wrap this up with a really tricky question, which is, this was in 2019, and I think the markets have changed. I think not
Certainly.
Necessarily, we don't need to get into a stock market conversation, but COVID changed things, and maybe people's perception of the American dream is different today, post-COVID, post-Trump, with interest rates going up and things like that. So I don't expect a definitive answer to this because you may not have resolved it in your own mind, but if you're writing that pitch today or a similar one like it, how is your process different? How do you... then you want to keep some things the same, I would imagine, but there is a nuance that needs to be different. So talk to me about where you are. You don't have to give us any trade secrets.
It's a great question. And I agree that the market has shifted. What people were excited about in 2019 is entirely different to today. Right now in the financial publishing industry, we are going out to people who are very uncertain. In the financial publishing industry, oftentimes you can talk to people who are fearful and get a message across that resonates. You can talk to people who are greedy and get a message across that resonates. But this middle portion right now that we've been dealing with of uncertain people, the uncertainty is a killer. In the industry. It's been very, very, very difficult to talk to people and get them really excited about anything because the reasons go on and on and on. political divisiveness. Our and in the financial publishing industry, our readers tend to lean on the conservative side, right? So they're not happy with what they're seeing with a President Biden administration. They're just not, and they're not excited about wealth opportunities that may exist for them right now because of just so many converging factors. The stock market has really wavered. I mean, we're still down from where we were, 18, 20 months ago. We're still down. I mean, we were over 36K in the Dow. We're still down around 35. So it's kind of this sideways period. And that's so getting the message is tough. Yeah.
I mean, I think people are uncertain about how they feel. I don't know how I feel about this and that. If people don't know how they feel themselves, how on earth are you supposed to? Yeah, I'm agreeing with you. I think uncertainty is a killer, but
Alexander Green's philosophy, Nick, is that over the long run, Alex is he says I'm like a kid in a candy store when the market drops, because I always buy every time the market drops, and he buys what every since the 87 crash, the 2008 recession, any hit, Alex is personally buying, because as he says, the greatest wealth generator that exists is the stock market. It tends to go in one direction over the long haul, and that's up. Now, we in this industry are waiting for this hiccup to take back off up so people get excited again. But what's very challenging is to try to get the message out early so people can get in early, can experience the ride upwards. Otherwise, they're going to be late. That's just how it is. It's a challenge we are still trying to figure out on a daily basis.
There's something going on where I want to, part of me, this stupid part of me, which often is the one that lives in the front of my world, wants to say it's like we're in a period of the big buts. And the reason I say that is because, as you mentioned there, like the two predominant emotions are always fear or greed, and it's going up or it's going down. We're in an uncertain period. We're kind of in the middle of there. And it's always, it could be fear, but there's something else. And then, or it could be greed, but there's also this fear, because I'm uncertain. You've got this but all the time. Good copy always drives you in one emotional direction. Even Alex's idea, you buy on the dip and think, what uncertain periods do is force you into a very logical state where it's like, well, what you should do is this, and this is the logic thing to do here. The problem is copy doesn't work on logic. We want the emotions at the top. The logic's for the back end of the promo and the opposite section. So as copywriters, why I think it is so difficult in these periods is because we're in this big but middle where it's like, yeah, it is good but, or it is bad but, and therefore the reason you get over that is by logic, but logic is like the copywriter's enemy in the top half of that.
Right.
So it's like, how do we deal with like logic? Like that's what we're dealing with. So it's a really weird, I don't have the solution.
One solution.
Kind of good to understand that, I think.
One solution is that we know that in times of uncertainty, people turn to trusted friends, acquaintances, and experts, people for whom they have respect, with whom they have an existing relationship. So everything that we've said today still holds up. And in fact, it's even more true. It doesn't make it easy, but what we've looked at today is a piece of copy that masterfully brings together those qualities of demonstrating Bill's trust in Alex and utilizing the potential audience's trust and knowledge of Bill. And the use of those relationships and the management of those relationships, that's really what everything we've spoken about today has been about, the relationship management, the different levels on which that works. That will never go away, and that's actually doubly important in times like this. So I would imagine, when people find the answer, it will still have those qualities. It's really hard to find, but studying pieces of copy like this is a great way of understanding what really makes people buy things. So it's been absolutely fantastic to have you here, Dave. And So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And for everybody watching, we're not done, because as I said at the start, we're going to do a second part of this episode where we're going to look at the same piece of copy, but we're going to look at it from a marketing point of view. So we're going to have...
From this angle.
Yeah. We're going to look at it upside down. No, we're going to have Chris Whitmer on the show. So he is not a copywriter. He's a marketer. So he's the person who would receive the copy once it was working, and he would go out into the world and market it. Now, as a copywriter, you want to know what those types of people are thinking, how they go and execute scaling a campaign and things like that. So we're going to be talking about all the nitty gritty of what comes next in the campaign in the second part of this two-parter. That second part will be for subscribers of the Fix Accelerator only. So if you're interested in that, we'll put a link below this video. You can sign up to the Fix Accelerator. It only costs £10 a month. That's about $12. Really not a lot of money considering the amount of stuff you get. That's the selling part over. If you're interested in that, well worth signing up for. And a final point, if you're interested in getting in touch with Dave because you want to write for him, you have an idea, you want to pitch him or whatever it might be, the best way of doing that is just to write to us at feedback@thefixedcopywriting.com. We will pass your message on and put you in touch if we think there's something going on that Dave needs to know about. So that's the best way of sort of following up if you're interested. Aside from that, Dave, we've never done this before and I've loved every second of it. So thank you so much for talking us through the copy. Perhaps when you crack the next iteration of Bill O'Reilly sort of collaboration, I guess, maybe we could have you back on the show and you could talk about, how you evolved the copy.
Terrific. Nick, Glenn, thank you very much for having me on. I really enjoyed going through it. I appreciate the kind words. I'll also take any criticisms you guys have for me moving forward. And please let Chris Whitmer know that I intend to beat him in fantasy football, as you have him on here with part 2 coming up. But I'm also indebted to the marketing team because a promotion that does well is nothing without a great marketing team. They found every possible angle they could to market it. And so I look forward to hearing Chris on part 2.
Excellent. Well, that's probably time to wrap things up. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. And we will see you, hopefully, in the Fix Accelerator for part 2. Thank you very much. And goodbye.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.